Hello and welcome to the newest video on the Matt's Motors channel. Today we've got the top 10 car faults in history. Please, if you do enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. So with that being said, let's get on with the video. Cars have changed drastically over the years, and when Carl Benz created the first automobile in 1885, it would have been inconceivable to him that cars would look like this one day, or even that cars could look like this in our future. Major car faults can sometimes be clearly visible to the consumer, but in most of the cases on this list, the companies did their best to hide the faults, and this sometimes resulted in the most tragic of incidents. At number 10, we have the Ford Pinto recall scandal. The Ford Pinto was introduced in 1971 and was designed to take on the heavily dominated market of small cars. The car in fact was the smallest American Ford vehicle since 1907 and was very popular, selling 328,275 cars in its first year on sale. But the Pinto had one major flaw the Ford knew about when the car was sent out to the masses. A rear-end collision could cause the fuel filler neck to separate and puncture the fuel tank, spraying fuel into the passenger compartment and igniting. Ford originally were reluctant to recall their vehicles as they felt it would be too damaging to their bottom line. But by 1978, the public outcry was so strong that Ford reluctantly recalled 1.5 million Pintos. Sadly, as many as 900 people died as a result of this car's fatal flaw. The major car fault resulted in Ford paying out hundreds of millions of dollars in civil suits, which had a major impact on the company's financial stability well into the 1980s. At number 9 in this list is a bit of a controversial car fault, as it is still debated if there was actually a fault with the car. But coming in at number 9, we have the Audi 5000 unintended acceleration scandal. The Audi 5000 acceleration debate almost killed Audi's hopes in the North American market, as in 1986, CBS ran a story on the Audi 5000 interviewing owners who claimed that their cars would suddenly accelerate. Audi blamed driver error, and they were right to do so, as the issue in fact was the narrow spacing between the brake and the accelerator pedals. But the damage was already done, and it would take Audi nearly 20 years to return to its pre-1986 sale numbers in North America. And nearly 30 years later, the CBS report on the Audi 5000 has gone down in history as one of the most misleading news stories in the modern history of journalism. Moving on to our 8th spot, we have the Jeep Cherokee's performance in the elk test. Now this fault is here on this list, not because it had a detrimental impact to the car company, or is it overly dangerous to the driver. But it's here as many people questioned how a modern car company allowed this flaw to slip through the cracks. The standardised evasive manoeuvre, or elk test, is performed to determine how well a certain vehicle evades a suddenly appearing obstacle. But when the Jeep Cherokee undertook the test in 2012, it became big news in the car community, and questions were raised how Jeep had allowed this to happen. But the Jeep Cherokee was not the only car to fail the elk test, with more dangerous results occurring when cars such as the Mercedes A-Class undertook the test. Reports surfaced that the A-Class actually toppled during the test, whilst the Jeep Cherokee only popped a few tyres. Moving on to our next major car fault, we have at number 7, the GM ignition cover-up. The car fault occurred in the Chevrolet Cobalt, and although General Motors attempted to partially recall the car in 2007 and again in 2010, the damage had already been done. The Chevrolet's faulty ignition switch caused the car to shut off at speeds. This deactivated safety systems such as airbags and anti-lock brakes. Sadly, this car fault resulted in 90 deaths over 13 years. It is reported that GM knew about the fault but found it too costly to fix. After this news came to light, General Motors recalled 2.1 million cars. That included the Cobalt and other similar cars such as the Pontiac G5. Many people say that the Cobalt will go down in history alongside the Fiat Pinto as one of the most recklessly built and dangerous cars ever sold. At number 6, we have a similar issue that we discussed in our entry at number 10. At number 6 on our list of top 10 car faults in history, we have the Toyota's unintended acceleration scandal. Now, this entry is higher than the Audi 5000 for one reason. Toyota cars actually did have an acceleration fault. There isn't much on this car fault out there on the internet. But in 2012, after years of denying unintended acceleration in several Toyota and Lexus models despite mounting evidence, Toyota agreed to pay the US government $1.2 billion to avoid prosecution, the largest criminal penalty ever imposed on a car company. Much like the Audi 5000, Toyota attempted to blame driver error, but the company did this whilst hiding documents that showed the flaw was in the acceleration pedals assembly. 4 deaths have been documented in connection with this car fault, and the car in which this happened was reported to have reached speeds of 125 miles an hour before it crashed. In recent years, Toyota have admitted they misled the public and recalled 9.3 million vehicles worldwide. Moving into the top 5, we have a scandal that is very much an ongoing issue as we continue to power into the 21st century. Our number 5 spot is taken up on this list by car hacking. Multiple cars have been subjected to hacking over recent years, but it is not higher on this list as it is not a widespread problem, as the vast majority of the general public do not possess the knowledge to hack a car. The most famous example of car hacking occurred in 2015, as it was the first to highlight this issue. The Uconnect technology is installed in a number of Chrysler vehicles. It is an internet-connected feature which enables owners the ability to control the vehicle and infotainment and navigation system, also sync media and make phone calls. But hackers were able to take advantage of this system and ultimately take control of vital vehicle controls such as the steering and brakes, which obviously in the wrong hands could lead to many fatalities. This Uconnect issue affects roughly around 1.5 million car users. But the Chrysler is not the only car to come unstuck at the hands of hackers. In 2015, the Tesla Model S was hacked, and the results were fairly similar. Also, keyless entry has been hacked in a sense, and many vehicles have been stolen as hackers are able to intercept their signal and gain entry to someone's car without them knowing. It is hard to gauge how much hacking will have an effect on cars in the future as vehicles continue to become more and more advanced. Moving on to number 4 on our list, we have the second entry from Ford. Once again, Ford feature on our list. Following their Ford Pinto scandal, it came to light after 3 years of investigation by the NHTSA that Ford automatic gearboxes built between 1966 and 1980 contained a defect where they could slip from park into reverse, causing them to roll unexpectedly. Once again, Ford knew about the issue, but had decided it would be more cost effective to pay off family lawsuits than it would be to fix the car. But after 777 incidents that included 259 injuries and 23 deaths, a 23 million car recall was nearly announced that would likely bankrupt Ford. But luckily for Ford, they were able to dodge the company-ending 23 million car recall. As the company came to an agreement with the Reagan administration, it would mail out 23 million stickers to Ford owners to put on their dashboards, reminding them to make sure the gear selector lever is fully engaged in park and to fully engage the park brake before turning the car off. The fact Ford were able to get out of this 23 million car recall likely saved the business, and without it, Ford wouldn't be the company it is today. Our entry at number 3 is not here because it affected a large amount of cars, unlike some of the entries before it, but the defect in the Ferrari 458 that caused it to sometimes catch on fire is not what you expect from a car that costs over £150,000 brand new. In 2010, Ferrari recalled over 400 vehicles due to multiple cars catching on fire. Ferrari had pinpointed the cause of the blaze to an adhesive used in the assembly of the wheel arch. Ferrari stated that in certain circumstances the blue can begin to overheat, smoke and even catch on fire, and in some extreme cases the melting of the adhesive could lead the heat shield, the liner protecting the engine, to deform and move closer to the exhaust, causing the lining to catch on fire. The recall affected some very high profile Ferrari customers including Eric Clapton the rock star and Chris Evans. Although, in Ferrari's defence, they were quick to react, unlike almost every other entry on this list, who just acted like their car defects did not exist. Moving quickly into our top 2, we have something a bit different. This car fault was a company that produced one of the most vital and life-saving components to a car. Our number 2 on this list is the Takata airbag scandal. This car fault could be classed as one of the biggest in history, as it involved 10 of the world's biggest automakers and at least 70 million cars sold around the world. Between 2000 and 2008, the fault lied with the Japanese airbag maker Takata. They had built airbags that could be affected by moisture and deploy with excessive force. Due to this, the airbag could rupture the metal housing, showering the interior and driver with metal shrapnel and chemicals that could potentially cause fatal injuries. Takata have kept up with the continued theme of this list, as they knew about the fault but failed to disclose their findings. This fault resulted in the company eventually filing for bankruptcy. It's estimated that as many as 30 million cars worldwide were affected by these dangerous airbags. So if I was you, I would check online to see if your car has any of these potentially fatal airbags installed. And finally, at number 1, we have one of the biggest car manufacturer scandals in relative recent history, the VW pollution scandal. It's number 1 on this list as it affected the biggest car manufacturer at the time, Volkswagen, who in 2015 was served with a violation of Clean Air Act. It had come to light that their diesel-powered cars that were known for being sportier but cleaner to drive and more efficient than their competitors had used software that allowed the car to pass the emissions test with flying colours, then shutting off for normal driving. This scandal cost VW upwards of $14.7 billion in the US alone. But due to it being such a recent scandal, only time will tell the true effects of VW's attempts to mislead the world. And there you have it, the top 10 biggest car faults in history. Please, if you did enjoy the video, drop a like and subscribe for all the videos to come. Also, if you are interested, there's a link to my first video in the top right. If you're looking to purchase a car, that video could help you get a car that is cheaper to insure, so check it out. But regardless, I'll see you in the next video.